Our estuary is essentially dead.
In the last 20, it's been much more serious. In the last 10, it is a crisis.
There's never to live here are not reminded of it.
Basically, it's raw sewage that's going in the ocean.
Since World War II, the city of Tijuana, Mexico, has seen its population grow from 60,000 residents to around 2.3 million today. This exponential growth has strained the city's infrastructure, so many homes in Tijuana lack access to proper wastewater treatment facilities, forcing them to dump their sewage directly into the river. Another source of pollution formed in 1992 when NAFTA, a trade agreement between the US, Mexico, and Canada, spurred many foreign companies to build factories in Mexico. However, few complied with waste disposal regulations and instead dumped hazardous waste into the Tijuana River. Over the decades, these two factors have caused substantial environmental damage to Mexico and the United States, especially to the residents of Imperial Beach, a coastal border city in America.
We would go into the ocean on a daily basis after work or on weekends. We'd be down there. It's been almost 2 years since October 2nd of 22 that we haven't been able to go in. So it's a definite change in the environment is definitely been degraded quite a bit.
What's really polluting our coast right now is the main Tijuana River. Nothing is being collected or diverted or treated that is flowing through the Tijuana River. The Tijuana River right now is the most severe and serious source of pollution to us. And that's not just sewage. It's heavy metals, carcinogenics, chemicals, pathogens, obviously, solid waste, and excess sediment that's polluting not just our coast, but also the Tijuana River Valley and the estuary as well.
The Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve protects and researches the 1,750 square mile Tijuana River watershed, which has been polluted by the Tijuana River. At the reserve, scientists sample river water and survey the estuary's ecology.
There's no oxygen, nothing lives, nothing survives. That has a cascading impact through the whole ecosystems right now. So at a ecological level, this is absolutely devastating. You have the National Estuarine Research Reserve. It has all these decades and decades of monitoring program. You're seeing conditions they have never experienced before in this area.
We did a fish sampling this last year, probably like in February, March, and they didn't find almost any fish, which is very uncommon. We have some fish, but not like zero, and that was very alarming to us. We have some staff that have said that they have seen a lot less insects, but the birds and the plants seem to be doing okay.
The water has been so polluted that a lot of these programs that have been funded by many different universities and researchers, they are no longer coming down because it's not safe for the researchers to do these monitoring works.
And again, it's not just about can I go into the ocean waters or not for recreation. This is really a public health crisis.
For me, my boyfriend is in the military. He often is having to swim in the water as a part of his job. The government is making him doing it. And it breaks my heart to know that he's sick and ill because of it. He's almost always sick on his times off. He'll have a weekend off and suddenly he's got, a stomach issue or he's got the flu.
The first documented instance of chemical warfare was the use of sulfur dioxide, and that's what we're living with every single day. We basically have a cough, chronic cough when we're here. We go somewhere else for like a week or so, our cough disappears. We come back, our cough comes back.
The sewage crisis also affects San Ysidro, a district of the city of San Diego that borders Mexico. San Ysidro officials have warned residents of the contamination.
Last year, I want to say like around September, I'm not quite sure, but it was last year, they sent out like this email to residents, and it said that the water was contaminated, the tap water. But I think it had like E. coli and I don't know what else, but we were not allowed to drink the water. Like even if you were gonna wash dishes, like we were like steaming hot water.
Retired pediatrician Dr. Csanadi, a member of IB Empowered, is concerned about potential health impacts of the sewage on border communities, especially children.
The most vulnerable to get sick are the children and elderly and immunocompromised. And then kids are often, they're lower to the ground, they're in the soil and the water, and they breathe faster than, adults do, and they play, they're active, and they may scrape themselves. And so they're, for a lot of reasons, higher risk. So many other communities in Tijuana are kind of off the water grid. They kind of get their own source of water that is not really potable. And poor people just get so sick. And I think that can contribute to, so they're like chronically have gastrointestinal infections too because of the bad water.
Dr. Csanadi is also concerned about the mental toll the sewage is taking on people living in the region.
It's inevitably almost the only thing that's talked about. It causes such anxiety. So this deep-seated chronic anxiety, like, are we breathing air that's poisoned and polluted? Are we walking on sand that can really cause a terrible infection and harm us and harm our children and stuff? So I wouldn't even say it's in the back of people's minds. I think it's in the front of people's minds nonstop. And that chronic stress, it really takes a toll on people. That stress, sometimes that chronic anxiety, that stress, begets anxiety, and then that anxiety sometimes can lead into depression.
Many residents have become especially fed up with having to smell the overpowering stench of sewage every day.
Dear Mayor Aguirre, today marks my decision to leave IB. While I know much is being done to fix the sewage crisis, this has become unbearable. After 2 years, I throw in the towel. The smell was so bad this morning that my daughter, who I haven't seen for nearly a year, that is visiting from X, woke up so nauseous that she threw up and has called a friend to go stay with her for the rest of her stay. This is unacceptable. Another one is, my husband and I just built a new home in IB, and I woke up at 2 a.m. this morning to a horrible smell. We don't understand how the smell can get worse if there's progress on both sides of the border. We're trying to rent a house at the beach, but can't find any renters due to this crisis. What happened last night to create this horrible smell? That's just one of half a dozen I've received this morning. And we in the city of Imperial Beach is literally doing everything in its power every single day.
But every time it rains, it gets flooded, and it's not just water. It is tires, pieces of refrigerators. It's just so much trash, and it's honestly, it's disgusting. It leaves behind it this stink that it affects the San Isidro residents, the Imperial Beach residents, the Coronado residents, directly, because it's just trash that gets stuck there. And unless the California government, San Diego government, goes and clean up, otherwise it would be there. And yeah, that's definitely a hazard.
But our community is mostly a community of people of colors. There's a lot of diversity, and people who traditionally don't have a voice in this. So that actually enrages us, and we're really kind of pissed off, and we really need to get this done because we're a great community, we're very hardworking, and we are not expendable.
The stench was so intense that A, it woke me up, B, I had a headache, and we had all of our doors and windows closed all night. And that meant I couldn't go for a walk on the beach, couldn't go down the pier. We actually got in the car and drove to Coronado to go to a swimming pool to get some exercise. There was no place in our town that was without a sulfur dioxide poisoning smell that we could go out and even move in.
But some people are very, very angry, and they think it's basically environmental racism, which I agree with. I do think it is, just to a large extent.
We also have the fact that our beach has been closed for over 900 days consecutively. So it's becoming a very strong economic impact. Businesses are moving out and closing.
Well, it certainly has had a devastating impact on Imperial Beach from an economic point of view. That city was just starting to kind of have a resurgence. A lot of new development was starting to happen. And the cloud of this ocean pollution really puts a damper on that.
I've talked to other businesses and they're all complaining their sales are down. And then what's really bad at night, we smell it. Well, if they would take care of this, if they ever take care of this pollution problem, I don't think there'd be a problem with business and people will start coming back. I mean, one of the biggest things that upset people, especially tourists, they come to the beach and they're ready to jump in the water and they're told they can't. That just like ruins your whole trip. Because why do you come to the beach? You want to go in the water. First of all, it is a very complex issue. Even on the United States side, we have multiple jurisdictions involved, including the County of San Diego, City of San Diego, the U.S. Navy, state wildlife, state parks. So there's a lot of entities involved on the U.S. side as well as on the Mexico side. You have governmental agencies, you have military areas that they control. But again, I think the biggest challenge is aligning all the goals and aligning the funding to promote those goals. So if you don't have those things aligned, it's very difficult to move projects forward.
I think that there probably hasn't been the political will on either side, at least on the larger scale. It's been, the federal scale. I've been disappointed that this seems to be stuck at a regional concern, a regional issue, when I think it's more of a federal issue because you get the two countries involved.
In America, the treatment plant that's supposed to filter out sewage from river water is the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant. But recently, it's been failing to clean the Tijuana River properly.
When that system started to be overwhelmed and they started getting flows that were, their flows, they were designed to and permitted to do 25 million gallons a day. And yet now they're putting out, close to 35, 40, until their system, because of rocks and sand and a bunch of debris coming in and damaging their equipment.
Located near Mexico's western coastline, the San Antonio de los Buenos treatment plant was built in 1988 to treat much of Mexico's sewage. But the plant has long been inoperable, allowing toxic wastewater to flow into the ocean. Expansion to the plant started in February 2024 and is expected to be completed by the end of the year, at which point the plant will treat 1/3 of Tijuana's wastewater. A lot of other infrastructure besides those two plants transport sewage through both countries. In 1889, the US and Mexico created a joint commission responsible for managing and maintaining these facilities, the International Boundary and Water Commission, or IBWC.
They're the only organization that is actually doing something. They have for 20 years or more have had their canyon collectors collecting cross-border sewage and processing it and putting it out in the ocean. They have tried to be forthright and open about the situation going on with their plant. They came forward and basically stated that their plant was non-operational because of cross-border damage of rock, sand. So I think that's really good instead of them not saying anything.
Being a federal agency, we can't lobby for funds. We are dependent upon Congress to allocate funds to us, and it hasn't been enough.
The money would go to them to replace that plant, fix it, and also increase its capacity. And that's part of where the money is stuck right now. The money has been authorized from the federal government, but it hasn't been released to that agency yet.
I'd say funding is not holding back solutions here. What's holding back solutions is which agencies are actually going to move forward and implement these projects. So right now, the International Boundary and Water Commission is kind of looked to as the key agency to dealing with binational water quality issues. They're the lead agency that needs to implement solutions, and it's up to who's ever leading those agencies to advocate to Congress and put a case forward of why they need more funding, why they need support, why these programs need to be implemented.
Despite these hurdles, the IBWC has been able to receive crucial funding.
They've advocated for us and it's helped out because we did get about $100 million bump in our budget for this year, and that was all I would say due to the advocacy of the residents.
However, many residents remain dissatisfied with the progress made by the IBWC.
You know, I think the IBWC is grossly under-equipped to function at what it's expected to do. They don't have the redundancy in place for equipment. They don't have the wherewithal to manage the anticipated 60 to 80,000 people growth a year in Tijuana. At one point last week in that meeting, the gentleman in charge had the audacity to say, "Oh, I have my fingers crossed that we'll have something by September." That's not what a person suffering in a sewage-dredged world wants to hear, that the person who's in charge has their fingers crossed.
Despite all the negativity, there has been steady political progress on both sides.
Our local county health and human services had done a short investigation to see if there were impacts from not just coastal contaminated waters, but potentially those pathogens becoming aerosolized, because our local health clinic saw an uptick in gastrointestinal illnesses. So we established a task force to start taking a look at, all right, well, let's look at this and see if there's a there. Now, over the months, we worked with the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors just approved 3 weeks ago a policy to direct staff from the county health and human services to join our task force and start looking and collecting at data and looking at the claims we're hearing from our residents to see if there's a correlation in the pollutants being aerosolized and without people going into the water. It's something that anecdotally we're seeing a lot, but there's no comprehensive study. As of yet, we're just beginning that now that we have the county on board.
We reissued the declaration of emergency on this to add that voice to it. And we will continue to talk again to the legislators to kind of keep reminding them we need to take care of this and we need to take care of it now. So I think it'll be more kind of advocacy using the platform as an elected official about how that important that is, and also talking to the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring a trip to Washington, D.C. One of the key issues that is going to be talked about is this crisis. So that collective voice that organizes and goes en masse to the appropriate federal agencies is another step that we're taking.
There's political meetings that happen where you have the political leaders or the government appointed positions talking about these issues. In addition to that, there's diplomatic meetings that are being hosted by the State Department. There is a rather extensive engagement process to try to make these things move forward through a democratic process, and it's long and it's slow.
Mexico, for its part, is making good progress on fixing its faulty infrastructure.
We understand that Mexico is committed to improving their pipelines, pump stations, and their treatment plant there. We're also hearing some encouraging signs in terms of the funding that's going to be needed on the United States side.
Their plant, it was supposed to be a private-public partnership between the state, private funding, and federal dollars. And it started to hit a lot of red tape, and the project began to be delayed. And because the president of Mexico had already committed to finishing it by September 30th of this year, he said, you know what, we're going to scrap that plan. I'm taking it over by federal presidential authority.
Yeah.
He handed the keys over to basically it's their equivalent of the Army Corps of Engineers. and said, here you go, you build it, I need it done.
Mexico has already funded a vast majority of their commitments. We have not done anything on ours. That is directly related to, the dysfunction that's happening at Congress and us not being able to abide by our own treaties, which we signed to, which traditionally we have always abided by. This is uncharted territory of the United States not following through what it says it's going to do with another country.
America's failure to fulfill its agreements has led many to urge California Governor Gavin Newsom to declare a state of emergency in order to secure more funding and support for the sewage crisis.
But the conversation about diverting the Tijuana River for treatment hasn't even begun. That's why we've asked the governor to declare a state of emergency related to the river and the need to expedite that project so that we can then significantly see a reduction in impacts to our, not just coastal waters, but our air as well. And I believe that if our president sees that our governor is not just asking for help, but championing this issue for us, there will be a much bigger difference in the response that we've seen so far. But we're not there yet, unfortunately.
The state of California is not engaged in this issue at all. That's why we've been beating up locally, all the mayors beating up locally on Governor Newsom.
As for us, we are Non-Toxic San Diego, a club run by high school students from different backgrounds. We joined this club to accomplish one common goal: raising awareness of environmental issues. At the July 10th IBWC Citizens Forum, our club president gave a speech about declaring a state of emergency, continuous collaboration and communication with Mexico, and the necessity of removing existing sediments.
Amazing works on fixing, maintaining, and expanding the wastewater treatment facility to ensure that it can handle and treat all of the wastewater that's going into it now and in the future. However, funding is crucial to solving any issue. Thus, the IBWC must make this its priority issue. For the Tijuana River problem, the IBWC needs capital to fix and maintain pumps, buy new and also spare pumps and pipes, conduct PCR testing and water quality monitoring, build other wastewater treatment facilities, and much more. But with limited budget, it can only do so much. As this issue is also binational, the IBWC must persist in meeting with its counterparts in Mexico, as well as high-ranking Mexican officials. Since Mexico not only has to fix and maintain its infrastructure, but also clean up the sediments in their parts of the river, these meetings are necessary to gain status updates, pressure Mexico to act quicker if needed, create agreements, cooperate on solutions, and understand Mexico's needs, while also preventing our political relations from being strained. Well, in the end, it was an honor to make a public comment at the IBWC San Diego Citizens Forum meeting, and our club admires all the work IBWC has done, not only on our side, but also on the Mexican side. Thank you.
IB Empowered is one of many advocacy groups flooding Governor Newsom's inbox and posting videos on social media that feature residents voicing their concerns about the Tijuana River crisis.
But there's been so much for so long without action, and I think that we've infused a little spark of momentum and hope in an otherwise hopeless experience. And I think that's really what empowering is. That's why we chose that name. That's why we are operating in this way, in order to not only give people the opportunity to speak, but also feel that they have the ability to change their reality. We are here to really just empower locals. We are just a group of locals that want to stand on our own 2 feet and yell, and help other people yell too. And I have a lot of hope that all of the ingredients to make this change is falling into place perfectly right now, and we're just a part of the fire that's gonna make this change.
Our Vice President spoke at Unite to Heal Our Coast, an advocacy event on October 13th hosted by Surfrider and Emerald Keepers, about the need for a federal declaration of emergency and uniting with other advocacy groups. everyone, I'm Jenna, and I'm the Vice President of Non-Toxic San Diego. And we are an advocacy group run by high schoolers all throughout San Diego County in multiple schools. And we are all passionate about addressing environmental concerns and hazards that we can see in our own local communities. Our mission is to not only advocate for a cleaner environment, but also to empower other youth voices in the fight for environmental justice and a healthier, toxin-free San Diego. This year, our club is focusing on the Tijuana River crisis, and we're currently in the process of making a documentary about this issue and the current situation, as well as future prospects. So this past Tuesday, the San Diego City Council approved a resolution that asks for a federal state of emergency to be declared. A federal state of emergency is essential to ensuring that projects like the comprehensive infrastructure plan can go through smoothly. So what can we do? In addition to signing petitions and emailing officials, we can also encourage each other to host a conversation in our own communities, attend council meetings, and share information online. Together, we can amplify our voices to make a real change. Because while we anticipate the passing of a federal state of emergency, local families are still struggling and suffering from the smell and the threat of diseases from the millions of gallons of raw sewage that are being dumped every single day into the river and into our oceans. This is where organizations like Surfrider and Non-Toxic San Diego come in and bring awareness to this issue. I want to take this opportunity to thank Surfrider, and especially Sarah, for hosting this event and organizing this for our community. Together, we can create a San Diego where every community, from Imperial Beach to San Ysidro, is safe, healthy, and thriving. I look forward to working with all of you and seeing this vision become a reality. Thank you so much.
And it's thanks to you guys and foundations like where I've been learning all this information, and I guess as a community member of the San Ysidro area, it's my responsibility to go out and inform my neighbors, inform my friends, inform my colleagues, inform everyone else in the community. Because again, a lot of people don't know what's going on, you know? This hasn't had so much media attention as it should.
Leon Benham is the Executive Director of Citizens for Coastal Conservancy, an environmental advocacy nonprofit. He gave our club the opportunity to get a first-hand tour of polluted areas along the border.
Our main mission statement is educating people about river process, about coastal processes. Education of people is super important, and then that we hope that we would encourage other localities, small city, coastal cities, to make their voice heard as to the management of their coastal environment. Our organization, we're all local, and we don't get paid for this. We do it because we're surfers, we're watermen, we're people that use the water.
To stop sewage from entering the Tijuana River Valley or Pacific Ocean, Citizens for Coastal Conservancy wants the government to build a set of flow equalization basins. These catchments would hold up to 300 million gallons of water, allowing the existing South Bay treatment facility to treat the sewage at a steady rate. Then, the water could be injected into a naturally formed underground aquifer to be used for drinking water and agriculture.
It's perpetually sustainable. It's producing the water that we need. It's producing the jobs that are permanent jobs, and it basically eliminates all the sewage going out into the ocean now and gives us a commodity that will pay for the public investment and the infrastructure. So when the river was in its original state, natural, that it would come down in a single channel, and remember, it's a dry river, meaning that ephemeral river. It's only running 30 days out of the year, but that river, because it has such a big drainage basin, it would bring to our beaches by carrying the sand and gravel. So by diverting the river, it's starving our beaches of sand. That's a bad thing. By diverting the river, we now have standing ponds of sewage that are next to where people live. That's not only smells bad, but it poses a health risk and a quality of life risk. You know, it's our community, it's our choice. And, you know, that is true. It is our community. It's our choice what you do. We're the ones affected by the choices that you make.
Surfrider is another national nonprofit organization that aims to protect our oceans by organizing beach and ocean cleanups. They also host public forums and campaigns to educate the public about ocean pollution.
I mean, we've been working on this issue for about 30 years in various capacities. The Clean Border Water Now program has evolved over the years, but the first organized effort and committee at the Surfrider San Diego Chapter was started in 2008. So there's been numerous campaigns over the years. I couldn't give you an exact number, but I think one of the important things to note is that we campaign at all levels of government. So what we've been talking about is just at the state level, but we also have federal level campaigns. So for instance, we're really trying to push for a federal emergency declaration for this region. We're trying to just get funding from other federal agencies in general to support this.
Imperial Beach residents still hold on to the hope that the Tijuana River estuary will be restored to its former glory, free of standing ponds of sewage.
We know what it was, people like that my age, when the sloughs was full of fish, kayaking, snorkeling, just beautiful. That's the dream. And we have a 3,800 acre park, and yet we can't go and enjoy it. I mean, that is a no-brainer. And so the dream is to restore the valley, restore our ocean, and then we can be swimming 365 every day of the year.
What hurts one hurts us all. That through collective action we can protect our common goods. The ocean and the beach is a common good. It's something that belongs to every one of